Hey guys, Tightrope here. Today we're taking a look at the first major balance patch for Company of Heroes 3. So right off the rip they say they've made some slight tweaks to the campaign AI, but there are more planned in the future. So personally I'm holding off on my campaign playthrough until these AI fixes have come through, so I want to still hang off on that until then. Then first off we've got indirect fire mortars, recharge time going from 15 to 30 seconds. So once you finish a barrage, this is how long you have to wait before you can start another barrage. So I'm actually working on a video about indirect fire at the moment. And yeah, the barrage fires roughly 3 times faster than auto fire, at least the US mortar, which is crazy. So much higher rate, but by the same token, the auto fire rate is really slow. So this is actually a pretty big nerf to mortars. And then mortar damage against emplacements doubled. I believe there was a target table penalty for mortars against emplacements. I think they were only doing 20% damage from what I remember previously. Maybe it's 30%, but either way that's been doubled now, so mortars should be quite a lot more effective against emplacements, and it's definitely going to be necessary now that you have to wait so much longer between barrages. So for medium indirect fire, Pak-Howie, LEIG and the heavy mortar, they're also getting the same recharge nerf to their barrage, going up to 30 seconds. Crew size increase from 4 to 5, so this should make them a bit more survivable before they get decrewed. They are having a boost against bunkers and emplacements. Doesn't mention doubled, but you know, anything's welcome with those OP emplacements, and we know how much of a trouble they've been recently. The barrage and auto fire accuracy has been increased and also fires more rapidly now. I thought it fired like reasonably rapidly, at least the Pak-Howie, but definitely the auto fire could do with a bit of a buff. So there we go, some buffs, some nerfs. Okay, here we are testing the revised Pak-Howie, now with a 5-man crew, you can see that. We're going to do against this, you can see it's at the edge of auto attack range or attack ground range. I'm going to barrage it here, see if we can notice any difference against the emplacement. I can't say I really noticed much of a rate of fire increase on this, if I'm honest. At least on the barrage. We'll test the auto fire after this.
Pack Howitzer crew, make it quick!
It's got a lot of shells on its barrage. How many shells does the thing have? I wasn't counting that. I know that the US mortar is 6. That seemed like more than 6. But anyway, I got the emplacement. Didn't quite decrew it. Down to under a quarter health. I didn't think I noticed much of a increase of its rate of fire and barrage, if I'm honest. Let's try auto fire. Attack ground. Whatever they did to the rate of fire seems to be very, very minor. Oh! Emplacement's decrewed and it's been damaged. It's at half health already after getting decrewed. Wow. Okay, so that didn't used to happen, right? When it got decrewed previously, it would still be at full health like every time. So let's get the truck on this and recrew it here.
Unit ready, as requested.
So I recrewed it, and it looks like it's still low in health. And now I'm going to repair it up with my engineers. And yeah, so you have to repair it up afterwards. So recrewing it is not going to auto-fill it back to full health. So it's going to take damage as it's getting barraged by whatever it's getting barraged by. And after you recrew it, you actually have to heal it back up. Just recrewing it with the med truck is not valid anymore. They didn't mention that in the patch notes as far as I saw, even in the bug fixes, but it seems like one of the main issues around emplacements has now been fixed, which is a big relief. Smoke duration has been reduced from 40 to 30 seconds, which I think is kind of good because it was just lasting way too long. You just could hide and smoke forever. I think that's a welcome change for me at least. And heavy machine guns, all of them have had their suppression and area suppression increased by 10 to 15%. So suppression, that's like direct if they're targeting one unit. And then area suppression, that means if there's squads near the squad that they're targeting, they'll also get hit by the suppression. So both of those have been increased, which I think is welcome, because quite often I was finding situations where units would take 2 bursts and still wouldn't be suppressed. Machine guns definitely have been a lot worse in Company of Heroes 3 than they were in Company of Heroes 2. So this is an issue that I had just yesterday. My M1919 heavy machine gun up against some Jaegers, and it took too long to suppress them. They ended up running out after 2 bursts. So let's see how they do this time. Okay, well yeah, that's just way better. Yeah, that's noticeably faster. And now a Jaeger blob against the machine gun. Take one in the middle. But that's just so much better. Okay, well yeah, definitely the MG suppression buffs very noticeable. It's going to make them much stronger, much better tool at countering blobs than they were previous to this. US Forces changes. Weapon Support Center is having a manpower cost reduction. This is the alternate tech structure, the one that doesn't have riflemen in it. It's got heavy machine guns, bazookas and so on. It's having a manpower cost reduction by 40, slight change there. And then Motor Pool, this is the one where you can build the Greyhound from, and anti-tank guns and stuff. That's also going down in cost by 10 fuel. At the moment, you know, the US meta previous to this was kind of going for the quad, which didn't involve building Motor Pool at all, and then going for like a fast tech to Sherman tanks, skipping this all together. So kind of nice to see this maybe being increased in viability. Riflemen are getting a health bonus, which is a little bit unexpected for me. They're going from 95 to 100. They generally felt quite good, I thought, in the early game. Like they had a good matchup against Grenadiers and Volksgrenadiers. So I'm not sure about this. I thought like maybe bar accessibility was maybe one of the struggles for Riflemen. Very tough to get the bar upgrade with how much fuel it costed. So yeah, this for me is a little bit of a strange change, but all right. The bazooka team is being buffed. Its manpower cost going down by 50 and health per model increased by 10. This is a very welcome change. You know, it's so unusual. You'd send this bazooka team in, but they cost so much manpower to start off with and such a fragile squad. Having to fight tanks would just kill them so easily. So yeah, this is needed because this was too weak in my opinion prior to this. So for the mortar, the Airburst and Delayed fuse barrage abilities are going down from 45 to 30 seconds. So that's kind of in line with what the regular barrage is. So I think that kind of makes sense to sync up those ability timings. Now that the regular barrage has gone from 15 to 30 seconds, I think this is a sensible change. The cost of the Airburst and Delays fuse is going down from 35 to 20. Delayed fuse is more accurate, has higher area of effect, and Airburst area of effect damage has been adjusted. So I didn't have too much experience utilizing these abilities, so I can't really comment on this, but maybe we'll take a look, see how effective they are after these changes. Here's the revised US Mortar Airburst Barrage, the Vet 1 ability, one of 2 choices you have. We're going to test it against a bunch of Grenadiers here, laid out, see exactly how much it does. It's got some big coverage. Did target it right here. Seems to be scattering short a bit. 20 munitions, I suppose. I mean, it's solid. You know, hits a decent area. It does okay damage, but
Indirect fire crew ready for the go.
this costs you your vet and 20 munitions. Yeah, I don't know. Not that impressive. Maybe, you know, if you're up against like a clustered bunch of units around a reinforcement half-track or something, that's a good situation to use this, but otherwise it doesn't seem to be that excellent. Now we're trying out the other vet ability, the Delayed fuse against a flak emplacement. Let's see how it goes. Close to max range, so most scatter you're going to experience, though we are firing with fog of war off. So, oh, okay. Doesn't have like a timer countdown like it did in Company of Heroes 2. Pretty good though. Decrew first barrage on a flak emplacement. That's respectable. That's better than the Pack Howie did with its barrage. It took like, I think the Pack Howie, the full barrage was 8 shells and then maybe 2 more auto fire shots on top of that to decrew it. So yeah, this is actually pretty respectable against emplacements. You know, not bad. I'm on board with it. The sniper's aim time has been reduced from 2 to 1.5 seconds. This is how long it takes aiming at the unit before it can fire. So this is a buff to the sniper. Haven't seen the US sniper too much, but I don't know, the Wehrmacht sniper felt fine. I'm not sure if there was a difference in their aim times between the two, but yeah, I don't know if this was 100% necessary, but there we go. The M375mm gun motor carriage. This is the one you get if you tick the mechanized support center that you can build, kind of like an Su-76 from Company of Heroes 2. So long-range accuracy against vehicles has been increased by 20%. I think this is a welcome change because this thing was missing like crazy. Yeah, it was really hard to stop those Wirbelwind rushes from the commander when, you know, what you were trying to rely on just missed so often. So I think this is a good change overall. This was underperforming in my opinion. The Greyhound is getting a reload time nerf, going from 3.325 seconds to 4.2. You know, I don't know if the Greyhound was overperforming. It does seem good, but I don't think it was really overperforming. But now that the tech structure it comes from is 10 fuel cheaper, maybe they felt this change was necessary to nerf a little bit since it's going to be arriving quite a bit earlier now. The Chaffee's long-range accuracy against vehicles is being improved by 20%. The Hellcat is getting a buff to its reload time. It's going down from 6 to 4.75 seconds, so a 1.25 second buff across the board here. This is a welcome change. Felt like the Hellcat didn't really have a role to play at the moment. You know, its range isn't really much different from a Sherman. It doesn't have that big range like the Jackson did in Company of Heroes 2. Yeah, and it just felt like, why wouldn't you just go for a Sherman? Its penetration wasn't that impressive. Maybe you could, you know, get the 76mm upgun on the Sherman, and then you'll kind of be in the same ballpark. So yeah, now with this super fast reload, maybe the Hellcat makes a lot more sense to actually purchase. Alright, not super scientific, but we've got Hellcats matching up against unupgraded Panzer IVs. Around this range, we've got 8 of these fights set up across the battlefield, and we'll see how they go. Increased rate of fire on the Hellcat. See down here for healths of the Panzers.
We can't hail our Hellcat. Crew dead.
So it looks like it's roughly equal to the rate of fire of the Panzer IV. So if you come head to head with the Panzer IV close range, in this case the Panzer IV won 7 out of 8 times, but it's very, very evenly matched. Very, very tight in terms of timing. So that's what the change is. Now in the head-to-head Panzer IV versus Hellcat, the Hellcat actually has the rate of fire to be able to fight toe-to-toe with the Panzer IV. It's not going to just get out DPS'd by P4, which makes sense. You know, you want your tank destroyer role to actually be able to beat, you know, a tank. So, okay, I see what they did with the reload there. The M29 Weasel, you can get this through the battle groups. This has a ability which allows you to drop a decrewed weapon team. So that's having a cost increase going to 50 to 75 munitions. It's also getting a recharge time of 60 seconds on those. They were definitely very strong, so probably a good idea. And the Sherman Whizbang, this thing was massively underperforming. Its recharge time is going down from 120 seconds to 90. Good. The rocket area of effect damage distance is being improved. So in the mid and far ranges, so right in point blank, it's going to be doing exactly the same, but as it goes further out, you know, away from a direct hit, it should be doing more damage now. That's quite a big buff, up to 7 at the far. So it should be coming quite a big area now. Each rocket is also getting a scatter improvement, the angle scatter. So, you know, say a rocket could land like anywhere within that V. It's now being shrunk down. So it shouldn't be scattering as far to the sides anymore. And then scatter max, I believe this is like, you know, say you target in the middle. Now it's getting shrunk down. So it shouldn't scatter like up and down as much either. So a scatter boost in both directions combined with the reload and AoE changes, welcome. I think a lot of people were still asking for like a range bonus on this. The Whizbang very short range, but that doesn't seem to have been addressed. Alright, we're testing the Whizbang now. We're going to do a max range barrage into all of these units right in the center of them. Let's see how it goes. as I was saying, a very short range on the Whizbang. You can see the mortar can auto-fire back to me at this range. Low angle on that barrage. That's pretty good. Okay. I mean, it's still very short range, but that's something that I can get on board with. That's some pretty good performance, actually. If your opponent's clumping around a reinforcement half-track or something, they're going to get annihilated by this thing. Okay, that's quite a lot better. Going into the US Forces battle groups, paratroopers are getting a munitions buff on their bazookas, going from 90 to 75 munitions, which is kind of interesting because this is already like one of the meta strategies in 1v1, but it is getting buffed here. The paradrop weapons are having a cost reduction, heavy machine gun going down to 250, and so is the anti-tank gun. And the carpet bombing is having a slight cost reduction to 180 munitions. And for the special operations battle group, the smoke screen is being reduced in cost to 40 munitions, marked target down to 50 munitions, and the resupply operation, this is the one that lets you drop in a machine gun, anti-tank gun, and a fuel crate, that's being increased in munitions by quite a lot, up to 180. Moving on to the British forces. Mention here that they've been struggling across all modes and heavily relying on Boys AT rifle upgraded infantry sections. The most common build in 1v1 is building 7 infantry sections and upgrading as many as you need to with the Boys AT rifles to fend off the opponent's armor at various stages. So they made some changes here. These are the side tech upgrades for team weapon training and light vehicle training. They're having costs decreased from 200 manpower and 30 fuel to 150 manpower and 20 fuel. Team weapons you kind of use all game, so I don't know if they 100% needed this reduction, but the light vehicles definitely did. Light vehicles typically using them from like 3 minutes up to 15 minutes, very limited window on their effectiveness. So it costing essentially the cost of a Humber to upgrade your Humber, like it just didn't make any sense to go for this upgrade. I still think it's maybe even still a little bit too expensive for the light vehicle upgrade, but maybe this will enable some more heavy light vehicle play for the British forces, especially in 1v1. Moving on to the British forces units, first off we have the infantry section. The Bren gun long range accuracy is being increased by 15%. Interesting, this is like the LMG upgrade that's being improved. And the Boys AT rifle is being nerfed against buildings, nerfed against cover objects so they won't destroy sandbags and stuff as quickly. AoE damage has been removed and no longer gains small arms accuracy bonus against team weapons. So quite a lot of nerfs for the Boys AT rifle across the board here. Definitely necessary, they were overperforming. But I think one of the things that made sections so strong is just their raw stats. That's why people are just spamming infantry sections. Sure, the Boys AT rifle was very good, but it's actually just like the raw DPS of the sections themselves that makes them so powerful. We're not entirely sure who made this DPS spreadsheet, but here it is. And you can see that the sections, like across all ranges, short, medium, and long, just have massively more DPS than all the other main lines in the game. This is what's making sections so powerful. Just their Lee Enfield, their standard rifles are just so good at all ranges. That is why we're seeing so much section spam. Maybe not so much the AT rifles, which were also overperforming. But yeah, one thing that's worrying me, Rifleman getting the health bonus, no nerfs to just raw section performance. And from what I've seen, no buffs to Grenadiers or DAC Panzer Grenadiers. So yeah, that's worrying, especially DAC Panzer Grenadiers, which really seem to be struggling in the current meta, at least in 1v1. Foot guards, a slight change to their manpower cost, and their submachine gun lethality increased by 25% at short range. I think this is kind of a welcome change. A lot of submachine guns have felt quite weak in Company of Heroes 3 so far. Yeah, the foot guards, unlike the USF Commandos, I believe you can't put away the bazookas, whereas they can switch between the bazookas and the LMGs. So they're kind of stuck with that. So that can hurt them, especially as they start to drop in model counts. But we're going to do 2 demos. One against Grenadiers in close range, and then one against Wehrmacht Panzer Grenadiers, since I don't think they received any changes. Just see exactly how good the foot guards are. Yeah, that's pretty fast. That's kind of what I would expect like a close range elite squad to do to an unvetted unit like that point blank in the late game. Okay, that might even be too strong. That's pretty good. But as I said, as they drop a model count, they will start dropping off because of those bazookas. Now the foot guards against the Panzer Grenadiers. These guys are kind of more mid-range than close range, but as I said, I think they were pretty good before the patch, so I think they're good testing body to see how things shake out here. Okay, well they're good. Okay, these foot guards, they're good. They're good. They're good. The LMG Commando Squad, you get this through the battle group. The manpower cost is being increased, but they're also getting a damage increase. So the LMG Commandos getting a buff here. So now the LMG Commandos, we're going to fight them against some Stormtrooper, relatively long range. So they're both kind of like elite long range infantry squads. So these guys, do have a bunch of grenades and probably more utility. These guys are just kind of raw long range DPS. So we'll see how they get on. And the rivals, these small firefights can vary quite a lot depending on model drops and RNG and stuff, but don't have as good testing conditions available yet in COH3 like I did in COH2, so I can't do super detailed tests. Seems to be almost like dead even, really. Basically exactly the same. So yeah, I think the Stormtrooper will end up coming in quite a bit later, since the LMG commandos can come in second on this commander. But as I said, less utility since they have don't have grenades or anything. They've just got this suppressing fire. And since they said they had improved DPS at all ranges, let's try them against some Panzer Grenadiers in close as well. So yeah, still a pretty comfortable win for the Panzer Grenadiers up close. And the SMG Commandos are also getting a short range buff. So it's kind of interesting. These guys did feel maybe a touch weak in terms of firefights, but they do have a lot of utility, a lot of abilities on this Commando squad. So, it's an interesting change. And now the short range Commandos up against some Panzer Grenadiers in close. Looks like the P-Green's got some pretty bad model drops there. The commander's getting very low in health, but still 5 models, so they maintained their DPS late into the engagement. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I expect, like a close range specialist to win maybe by close to that margin against the more mid-range focused Panzer Grenadiers. Onto the Ghurkas, also available through a battle group. Their Bren gun is being improved as well, 15% at long range, so same bonus as sections are getting. I don't know, if this is going to push Ghurkas over the top, but we'll have to wait and see. And then Thompsons are being improved in lethality, 25% at short range. I think this is a welcome change because, yeah, they did feel a touch weak. So the Ghurkas against Panzer Grenadiers in close, we kind of have this as like a frame of reference now against the Commandos and the Foot Guards. So I think it's good to kind of keep this consistent. In terms of health, looks like they did better than the Commandos, but in terms of model count, a lot lower. So yeah, pretty similar, maybe slightly better than Commandos. Alright, now the LMG Ghurkas against the Stormtrooper.
We have found the enemy, brothers! He's dead! Commander, you have CPs ready. They can't shoot for shit! We must keep fighting! Enemy infantry died!
Looks like they might be slightly better, actually, than the LMG Paras, which probably makes sense since they cost a bit more manpower, and you have to pay for the LMG upgrade as well. But yeah, okay, looks like they're pretty good. The CMP 15 CWT truck is having a few changes. It's having a slight buff to its manpower and fuel cost reduction, which is interesting because, you know, like forward reinforced trucks have been very, very powerful in Company of Heroes 3 with the auto reinforced now. So this is kind of just solidifying that as a very good strategy, which is interesting. I suppose maybe this will help reduce some of the cheese where certain units coming with a truck attached to them, if you refunded them, you could get some big discounts and refunds. So maybe this offsets that a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really think it needed a cost decrease, but there you go. Mobility has been increased, so it's going to be easy to get away with it. The anti-air gun is having a cost reduction to 60 munitions, but it's also having its damage reduced. Didn't feel like particularly strong in terms of damage, but you know, whatever. Maybe it will work out with the cost reduction, but it's actually having a range buff from 40 to 45. So it's a pretty big deal. It'll help it keep out of range of small arms fire quite a lot better. This was definitely like under strength. Basically, nobody was using this unless you needed it for anti-air strictly and that alone. So, you know, maybe a nudge to see this unit, but I still don't think it will be used too often. So it looks like there's an issue in the patch notes, or perhaps the game has got the incorrect value. But it said 60, but it's actually 75 in game. So 15 CWT up against Grenadiers' relatively long range, looking to take advantage of that long range buff. You see how it goes. Kind of want to fight from way back here, so that you know, you're safe away from the Panzerfausts. This thing sucks. I mean, it's consistent. I'll say that much. It's consistent. Seems to have very high accuracy. And why as I say that, it misses 4 shots in a row.
They're looking for targets in the open.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not incredible. And now I've got the squad a bit more clumped up and light cover. I kind of want to see the AoE profile on this. Yeah, not very impressive. It doesn't have any suppression to like kind of offset this lack of damage. It doesn't have very good AoE, as you can see, like a unit clumped out and mega clumped in light cover versus out in the open. Doesn't seem to be like a huge difference in the time to kill. And to test its anti-vehicle performance, here it is up against a 221. So it looks like it's going to have a pretty clean advantage here. It's got 8 frontal armor to 20 actually on the 221. That's surprising. This will end up taking quite a lot of small arms damage, that means, but comfortable victory against the 221. And here it is against the DAC flak.
Good Lord, we've just lost our
And that
CMP
does win relatively comfortably. Even though this had like a Vet 1 bonus, which I think might even increase its accuracy or something. So heavy mortar, weapon traverse speed from 25 to 40. So say it's like set up pointing one direction. This will help it, I believe, like turn to face a different direction faster. So it's a buff to its weapon traverse. And then barrage range improved from 120 to 150. So it's actually going to be really long range now. Humber, manpower costs reduced by 20. Received weapon overhaul and is significantly more lethal against infantry. This is interesting. I mean, the Humber was already kind of decent enough to use on 1v1 from time to time. So the fact that they made it significantly more lethal, wow. Mark area ability cost removed. Mark area can now be used in the fog, and the smoke launcher's range decreased from 65 to 45. So a couple buffs here to the Humber, maybe combined up with the side tech upgrades for light vehicles. has the era of Humber spam now begun? So let's check out this revised Humber. Let's see how lethal it really is. Oh my god. A few hits hitting the heavy cover there. Oops. Compare this to that 15 CWT upgraded with the anti-air weapon. This is way better, right? Especially if you didn't have 4 shots hit by the heavy cover. And the Humber is like faster than that, right? Better armor, so you're going to take less small arms damage if they do get into small arms range on you. Has more utility, I suppose, apart from anti-air. That's definitely looking lethal. So now the Humber against a squad clumped up on light cover.
Where's our fucking support?
Yeah, I mean, if we compare this to, say, like, the looks that we saw in Company of Heroes 2, I'd say this is more lethal than that. And this costs, you know, less, 35, I think that was 60. So it comes in earlier as well. So, yeah, I mean, this seems to be very good now post changes. I would expect to see quite a bit of Humber play. Onto the Stuart. Side tech cost has been reduced significantly. And then the fuel cost of the Stuart also been reduced, which is kind of interesting. I think this is good overall because the Stuart, I think I saw one of them the entire time I've been playing so far. There's just really no point in going for it when you could just, for not that much more, go for the next stage of tech and go for some Crusaders instead, and then you're in a much better position to continue the game from that point as well. So the Stuart was in an awkward position. I think this will help it out a lot. Maybe we'll actually see some play now. Combined with that, it's also getting a lot of buffs. Its reload's going way down, much faster rate of fire. It's getting a penetration buff. Should be really helpful against things like the Wirbelwind. Solid penetration on the Stuart now, combined with that rate of fire, should be doing way more damage to vehicles. The Commander Aura has been nerfed though from 20 to 10%. Smoke Canister has its cost reduced, but now it's got a long cooldown, 2 minutes. So testing out the new Stuart, and we're going to fight it against the 8-Rad here. Figured these guys, kind of similar timings on the battlefield, probably going to be quite a common matchup going forward. So let's see how they go against each other straight away here. Well, that's a comfortable win for the Stuart, which has 75 frontal armor. So if you see this coming with your 8-Rad, get out of there. Here's the Stuart now up against a Panzer III, something a bit beefier. Figured, you know, maybe people will just spam a bunch of Stuarts, and so let's see how they go. Panzer III has 130 frontal armor. I mean, not bad. Over half health. I mean, I could definitely imagine a future where people just make a bunch of Stuarts, stay on this tech, and just try and go for like a timing push, you know, along with that side upgrade from the tech structure. It's got cheaper, combining up Humbers and stuff. And, you know, even if it kind of runs out of momentum, you know, but when you tick up to your final stage of tech as the British forces, then you get that withdraw and refit. So you can just send these guys back and get a refund anyway. So, or, you know, I think it's in this battle group, British Army battle group, you can withdraw and refit. This one costs munitions. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see players making heavy use of the British light vehicles after these changes. The Bishop is having its side tech unlock cost reduced by 25 manpower. Not a big deal. But its barrage recharge is going way down from 60 seconds to 30. That's a huge buff to the Bishop. And the direct shot is now available to target all enemy and neutral units. So slight rework to the direct shot. The Bishop direct fire, you require Vet 1 to activate this ability. 25 munitions. So it looks like you can activate it on quite a few like world objects, like trucks and crates and boats and stuff. So be careful that you don't click on something unintentional. I want to try it against a building here, so that's what we're going to do here first. So you have to get into that range. There's about 1/8, I would say, health for that. Looks like it's going to have maybe a 30-second-ish cooldown. So now the direct fire up against a Panzer IV this time. This has 720 health. Okay. Respectable. Respectable. Does it give 0 vet? It looks like it's on a separate cooldown to the regular barrage though, so that's kind of useful at least. But yeah, a decent chunk of damage to a Panzer IV. Okay, and now I've put an actual squad inside the building. Let's try that again. Let's see if a squad inside takes a lot of damage from this.
Bishop is ready! SP Bishop, this one comes from the top!
Seems to be bugging out here.
Try not to hit every bloody thing in the way. Christ on a bike. Bishop, it's too hot here!
Can not
Bishop, move it!
damage this now that a squad's inside it.
Orders! Stop everything!
I can target the next door building. And did maybe less than quarter health to the squad. Strange. I thought I'd be able to target the unit inside the building with this, but
SPG,
somehow not.
too hot here!
Let's try from this side of the building. Oh, there it goes. Okay, something weird just about the activation coming onto the outside of the building. It did end up working from... Yeah, it didn't do a huge amount of damage, but I mean, it's something to do while it's, you know, out of action on the barrage. Matilda is getting an armor increase, 40 on the front and 50 on the sides, kind of reinforcing its role as a damage sponge. The Grant steady assault speed and rotation rate penalty reduced from 50% to 25%. I believe this is the Grant's, you know, Vet 1 ability that allows it to fire more rapidly. So it's having its movement penalties reduced in severity. The anti-air Crusader is having a fuel cost increase, but to compensate for that, it's having an accuracy increase, roughly 50% at all ranges, so that's a big boost to the accuracy. The area of effect and damage have both been increased and the penetration has been changed. I'm not sure if this is a buff or a nerf, it doesn't say here, but either way, welcome changes. This anti-air Crusader underperforming, I'd say, compared to like the Wirbelwind. So yeah, good to see it kind of pushed into relevancy. So the Crusader anti-air against a Grenadier squad, relatively long range. Let's see how it goes. Respectable. Seems worse than the Humber though, dare I say, compared to what we experienced over here earlier. And this is, you know, like a 70 fuel medium. I'm not saying, you know, this is bad or anything. Seems to be an improvement over what it was before, but it does have a very long reload. I mean, it's alright. Not incredible though. And now up against them clumped up in cover. Well, this is where it takes over compared to the Humber. Much better AoE than the Humber had in this test. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. If a unit's clumped in cover, this is going to shred. The Churchill Black Prince is being changed. You know, this didn't see too much play. Most people just spamming the regular Churchills instead of going for the Black Prince, since you can only bring in one of these for the entire game. Felt like a bit of a dead end for, you know, not that much improved performance over the regular Churchill. So now it's getting an armor boost on both the front and the sides. Its speed is being reduced though by quite a bit. Its damage is being buffed up massively to 240. Range has been decreased though by 5. The reload has also been nerfed by a reasonable amount. The area of effect has been improved by a significant amount. I'm not entirely sure what number this is referring to, but either way, that's a big boost to its AoE. And then its area of effect damage has also been increased. So big changes, like with the 240 damage cannon, this thing's really going to slap hard. Its penetration has also been altered to have more penetration at mid and long ranges. So this is kind of bringing it up to be more in line with going head to head against the Tiger. Now taking a look at the Black Prince, and first off I'll say you definitely notice the decrease in speed compared to the regular Churchill. can see it's easily getting outpaced. It's moving very, very slowly now. And here we go, a bit of a race between the Tiger and the Black Prince. You can see the Tiger quite comfortably outpacing this. So yeah, you won't be able to get away from much with this thing now. It is very slow with that speed nerf. So let's see how the Black Prince does against a bunch of infantry. I got 4 Grenadiers here all clumped up. Let's start.
There goes another one! That's a goal, laddie! Let's see who cares to dance!
Not very impressive. Let's try to get a bit closer. Oh, that was better. There we go. First good shot out of like 5-ish.
I want guns on that infantry!
I mean, I'm not that impressed if I'm honest. It does have a slower rate of fire than the Tiger as well, so when you miss a shot like this, you really feel it, you know? I suppose maybe that makes it okay for like driving forwards, poking, driving backwards. But it doesn't seem like it's overwhelming against infantry, at least, that are out in the open. So now the head-to-head between the Tiger and the Churchill Black Prince. I imagine the Black Prince should probably win this, given that it's got higher frontal armor now. And I imagine they've got similar gun stats, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's a good start there for the Black Prince. Looks like the Tiger has a slightly higher rate of fire though.
Congratulations, Commander. Tiger destroyed.
So won the head-to-head against the Tiger. Better do if you can only build one of them. But yeah, there you go. Black Prince, very slow now, but big, powerful cannon on it. Moving on to Wehrmacht, we are toning down parts of Wehrmacht's mid and late game power. We will be making further changes to emplacements in the next hotfix. Big issues with emplacements at the moment. So happy to hear that they are working on them. But here we go, Panzer Company. This is the final stage of tech where you can build like a Panzer IV, Brombeer and whatnot from. It's having a manpower cost increase from 200 to 300 manpower. You know, one of the most popular strategies at the moment, you know, if Luftwaffe Company wasn't so busted, was I think 6 Grenadiers straight into Panzer Company. So maybe this will make that a little bit less viable in 1v1. But I think personally, maybe healthier for the game if they kind of forced you into one of those intermediate stages of tech, either the Panzer Grenadier Company or the Luftwaffe Company, and then you go to Panzer Company after then. At the moment, being able to go tier 1 straight to tier 4, I don't know. This whole tech skipping thing is, you know, a little bit uneven considering Brits have to build every single stage of tech, you know. Concrete bunkers are having a health and armor reduction, which is welcome to see. Kettenkrad communication cables upgrade cost has been increased from 25 to 35 munitions. So this means you will not be able to get this immediately right at the start of the game. So you won't be able to get those Ketten +3 resource bonuses for the entire match. This is kind of interesting because it makes it hard for this to ever really see play in team games now after this, because you know a lot of those sectors close to your base that you want to be capping to get this bonus will never get harassed by the opponents. So I feel like this kind of just like completely kills this for like 3v3 and 4v4. So yeah, I don't know if this was the way I'd approach it. Maybe if there's some way that then the Kettenkrad can come back to that point and set up the bonus, this makes sense. But at the moment, I feel like this just completely dumpsters the Ketten for team games. The Nebelwerfer barrage recharge time is going down from 90 to 70 seconds. Fires more rapidly now. Doesn't mention here exactly how they're doing this, whether they're firing the same amount of rockets over a shorter time span or over the same time span it covers now, more rockets, but either way, buff to it there. Incendiary rocket area of effect fire damage has been improved. So on the edges of the rocket. We'll be doing more damage now. And then the area effect distance is going up hugely. The mid distance is going up, and then the far distance is also going up. So yeah, these rockets are going to be covering a much larger area now. And the scatter has also been reduced, so they'll be landing in a tighter area. And then finally, more accurate firing into the fog of war. So slight thing, I think this had like a 50% penalty firing into the fog of war from, I believe, whereas most other indirect fire is 25%. So yeah, just a slight tidbit there. So I mean, I'm guessing that they reduce it to 25% like most other pieces of indirect fire. So here's the Nebelwerfer with the new incendiary rocket barrage, or reworked, buffed. Let's see how it goes. Similar range to the Whizbang that we had earlier. Probably closer than you'd have it in most games. Interesting. So, you know, this is the area that it shows that it's targeting, but the scatter seems to be much shorter than that. Not as destructive, though, as the Whizbang was. I'll say that much. But it does leave the flames behind, so it can make it quite hard to dodge, I suppose. Offloads its payload slower than the Whizbang did as well. The Wirbelwind is having quite a few nerfs here. Accuracy has been decreased at long range and short range. Area of effect has also been reduced, and long range cooldown between bursts increased. So say if it's firing long range, we'll fire its shots and then it'll have a longer gap, and then it'll start firing again. So lower rate of fire long range. So 3 nerfs here to the Whirlwind. I thought, you know, it's like straight up performance wasn't that overwhelming. It was more that you could access it through the battle group like so early on. That's what made it overwhelming. You know, taking Luftwaffe company, going for the side tech, getting it, felt like that wouldn't be so much of an issue. So I'm not entirely sure if these nerfs were necessary, but I guess we'll find out because there are some changes to it down here. The Luftwaffe combat group is having a command point cost increase. So, you know, we'll see how things shake out between those two, whether the Wirbelwind changes were justified or not. So now we're testing the revised Wirbelwind up against a squad of infantry section. I decided to use these guys, even though they've got 95 health each. Figured, you know, it's kind of all relative. You know, the Grenadiers we saw earlier in testing have only 80 health, so they will die faster. But, you know, this is what the Wirbelwind's going to be shooting at, so figured, why not?
You have orders. Nebelwerfer engaged by ground targets. Oh, those are coming close.
I mean, compared to the British Crusader that we saw earlier, this still actually seems perhaps even slightly better than that out in the open. So, I mean, that's promising that it didn't get nerfed to the ground at least. Now close range when they're clumped up. Still pretty good. Still very good. Better than the Crusader actually, still. Against a higher health squad, still better than the Crusader. So yeah, definitely didn't get nerfed into the ground or anything. Still seems to be very good, the Whirlwind, against infantry. The Panzer IV is getting a slight cost increase, both in terms of manpower, fuel, and population costs. So you won't be able to fit quite as many Panzer IVs into your army as you could before. And yeah, maybe combined with the tech cost increase, this will make that straight tick up to Panzer Company maybe less appealing. Moving on to the battle groups, starting out with the Luftwaffe battle group. The 2cm Flak 38 now requires Luftwaffe, Panzer Grenadier or Panzer Company before you can build it. So you have to have one of those higher stages of tech before you can actually plant that flak emplacement down. This was like one of the main perpetrators of balance issues in team games, especially at the moment. And then it's having a cost increase from 200 to 250 and 35. Then also the 88 Flak 36, that's also getting some nerfs here, increase in cost and construction time. And the Luftwaffe infantry reserves have also been increased in command point costs, going from 3 to 4. On to Afrikakorps, fire support elements. I believe this is the side tech you can get from the first tech structure. I think so. It's having a cost increase, 25 manpower and 10 fuel more now. Support armor elements, also getting a manpower cost reduction here, which is interesting. Then on to unit changes. Panzer Grenadier, their MG34 light machine gun long-range lethality decreased by 15%. This is interesting because, in my experience, people weren't really building Panzer Grenadiers, at least in 1v1, because they've got a high population cost. I think they cost 8, whereas Panzer Pioneers cost 4. So, you know, like long-term manpower economy, they didn't really make a lot of sense. And their performance compared to most other mainlines, a little bit lackluster. And now their weapon upgrades getting nerfed as well. So I expect to probably see not many more Panzer Grenadiers, at least in 1v1 this patch. Assault Grenadiers, similar to most other SMG squads we've seen so far, getting a lethality increase, 25% in close range. Alright, so the revised Assault Grenadiers against a rifle squad in close. Let's see how they go.
Enemies! Engage!
That's actually quite a thorough beatdown. Okay, they're good. You can build these pretty early on. You build your first tech structure. I suppose that does come in later. It does cost a decent chunk. But that's pretty good. They taught those riflemen a lesson. So now we'll try the Assault Grenadiers up against the Commandos that we saw earlier, but have also been buffed. Actually a very close fight. Assuming this is like a battle group locked unit. How much do these cost? Do these cost like 400 as well? That was actually a very close fight, and these are only 340. Not too bad, not too bad actually. Panzerjäger is getting nerfed here. Squad size going down from 5 to 4. The AT rifle rate of fire decreased at long range. And the MG34 LMG can no longer fire on the move. I didn't even know that it worked that way. That's crazy. So the squad's, you know, kind of similar to Guards were in Company of Heroes 2. AT rifles and LMG upgrade. And they were very popular on 1v1. They're getting a lot of nerfs here though. It's quite interesting. I think especially going from 5 to 4, they're going to be a lot less popular of an option now. The Kruitschützen motorcycle build time increased from 20 to 35 seconds. I don't know if that was strictly necessary. It didn't feel like this thing was like overwhelming right off the rip, but alright. 250 light carrier, manpower cost increase from 260 to 280. Lethality decreased by 25% at short range and 50% at long range. I don't feel like these changes were really necessary. I mean, most people are getting these 250s from like the call-in functionality, not building them. So whatever, this kind of just limits your starting build options, especially when combined with the Kruitschützen getting a nerf up here. And no buffs to Panzer Grenadiers. It feels like this is really going to limit, at least in 1v1, the DAC starting build orders. I think everybody's going to go for Basiglieri now. So yeah, I'm very confused by this 250 change. So here's the 250. It has its lethality decreased by 50% in max range. Let's see what that looks like against a squad of infantry sections out in the open. I feel like if this section was behind heavy cover, it could probably win this fight at long range. Heavy cover section versus this, the small arms damage it's taken so far. So it's interesting. Of course, 250 can come in, it can push, it can carry units inside with the clown car functionality. But yeah, not a very fast kill against this section. The 2.5 ton medical truck is having a manpower increase from 150 to 200. I mean, it's probably fair enough, bringing it more in line with other reinforcement half-tracks like this. The flak half-track is getting a slight cost increase, both manpower and fuel. The recovery half-track, manpower decrease but fuel increase. The walking Stuka is having a buff to its area of effect damage in the mid and long ranges. And the scatter is also being improved, similar to most other rocket artillery pieces that we've seen. There's the buffs to the walking Stuka, going to barrage similar formations to what we've had earlier. See what we can get. pretty good. What's the min range on this? Okay. Yeah, I mean, seems at this range to be better than the Nebelwerfer. Similar to the Whizbang. I think the Whizbang maybe covers a slightly larger area, but this seems to do more damage to whatever's closer to the center. Guastatori, these guys have been terrorizing basically every mode. They're getting a manpower cost increase by 40. Their flamethrower, 10 more munitions now, and their armor decrease by 2.25. So yeah, they'll be more vulnerable to taking small arms damage thanks to this change. Definitely needed a nerf. I don't know if this is the route I would have taken, but felt like them having like an anti-tank grenade was a questionable choice. You know, they kind of became anti-everything. They got the flamethrowers, the smoke, the anti-tank grenades. That's probably where I'd look rather than stat changes like this. So then, you know, you have like a good unit counter, like light vehicles that can counter them, or tanks or whatever, and drive in close, really smash them off the field, rather than just everything being more effective against them now. But all right. Testing out the Guastatori now that they've been nerfed up against the Ghurka rifles with the buffed up Thompsons. Seems to be maybe the strongest close range allied squad. We're out in the open as well, so the flamethrowers shouldn't be overwhelming here. Oops. Let's see how it goes. Oops. Let's click. Still, I mean, it's close, but at least, hey, at least one squad that the Allies has can win a fight against them. So that's the reduction in armor, I think, kicking in there, combined with the Ghurkas getting the SMGs buffed in close range. But I could imagine if that was like clumped up in cover, if they were clumped, the Guastatori would still end up winning this. So they're still going to be very good. Onto the DAC battle groups, the Italian Combined Arms battle group. Auxiliary bolster, cost decrease from 2 to 1 command points. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I think everybody in 1v1 is just going to be going for Auxiliary. I didn't even know about this change back then, but definitely everybody's going to go for these guys now. Some of these changes for DAC and 1v1 just don't make any sense to me. Anyway, conversely though, their light machine gun is being cost increased from 2 to 3. So you get the bolster earlier, LMGs at the same time now essentially. The light tank call-ins cost decrease from 2 to 1. These were already quite popular, so I could definitely see people continuing to spam these in 1v1. And then Pact of Steel cost decrease from 3 to 1. Also a couple bug fixes here. British rifle nades have a min range of 15. That's a good idea. These trucks can now tow team weapons. 250 can now tow the 88 flak. The Whizbang rockets area of effect could miss target. Okay. And the British mortar had less range than the other mortars. Okay, so that was just a bug. That wasn't intentional. All right. So the bug fix for the British mortar, here you can see the edge of its barrage range, and here's its auto attack range. So similar to the US and Wehrmacht mortar, has extra barrage range compared to auto fire. Previously, the barrage was the exact same distance as auto fire, so it was kind of trash compared to the other mortars, but now on par with the other factions. So yeah, I think overall a lot of good changes here. I'm definitely scratching my head about these DAC changes for 1v1. They don't seem like they make a lot of sense. I felt like Panzer Grenadiers were the main issue for DAC and 1v1, and they haven't seemed to be addressed, and a lot of the other starting build orders seem to be nerfed as well. So yeah, I don't understand this, but you know, good changes across, you know, like 85% of this is good. Very good stuff, and look forward to further balance patches. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you enjoyed this patch breakdown, I hope you consider coming on board as a Patreon backer.